Alright, so previously we covered the series configuration. In this video, we will go through the value label customization for the time series visual. Now, first things first, within the sample report, of course you do have your samples that you can go through and just play around and see how they've been set up. The two options that you have in this case are going to be between non-stacked values and stacked values. But in order to create them, let's go to the training view and start building the visual from scratch. So first things first, let's add a visual instance. Let's resize it, disable the background and the title since we're not going to be using those. And let's go for the initial setup. Now, let's use new date as our date field. And for the series, we're actually going to be using payout development, marketing, and product. There we go. Now, first thing that I want to do with these series is actually I want to stack them on top of another because I want to create a stacked column chart. So first we're going to go to series 3 and adjust the stack number from 3 to 1. Now we scroll up, find series 2, open that up, go back to stack numbers. We're going to adjust from 2 to 1. There we go. Now all series are in a single stack. So the next thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be enabling value labels for all series independently. So series 1, series 2 value labels, and series 3 value labels. There we go. Now, something else I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to resize the chart so that the labels have more breathing room. All right. So what happens by default is we're not just showcasing series specific values, but we're actually using something called cumulative values. So all the columns that are beneath a singular value label are going to get summed up. And you can see it right here. So for example, if you look at the tooltip, you can see that development is 284,000. That's the same label that you see right here. Now, if you look at the second label and at the tooltip, you can see that marketing is 605,000. So if we combine them, that's 889,000. Now going upwards, we have the third label, which is for the product. Product by itself is only 161K. So the total value for the whole stack is 1.05 million. This is the default behavior. Of course, we do realize that certain situations call for different approaches. So if you go under value labels right here, in this case, we're going to go for series 3 value labels because that's the series that's at the top. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to change for example, the position for the label so that it's outside of the column. Right here, label position, outside top. There you go. There's just one thing that you can change here. In fact, the value labels have something around 16 settings that you can go through things like font styling options, positioning, shadows, backgrounds, and so forth. So there's a lot of flexibility. But what I really wanted to show you here is, for example, for series 3, we're going to use total stack value and we're going to keep it as auto. But for the other two series, we're going to go right here for series 2 and we're going to actually change it to be on false. So in this case, you can see that the value label is actually showcasing the series specific value. So this is one of the flexibilities of the chart. You can individually customize the series label and make them show either the series specific values or these cumulative values for the stack. A traditional approach for this would be, for example, if I completely disable value labels for series 2 and series 1 and just leave the total at the top, but then when I hover over one of the columns within the tooltip, I can still see the series specific approach. If you want, you can also go to the tooltip settings and enable use total stack values there to have a more cohesive experience. Now, going through the value label customization itself, we're going to re-enable the value label for series 2. And we're going to go to the new tab right here, series 2 value labels. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to just slightly adjust also, let's say, the angle of the label itself. So that's something that you can do as well. We can also apply border radiuses if it's necessary. In this case, I'm going to go for something like 21 because it's going to round up the corners so it looks like an oval shape. Now, forward, you have your value label padding. This allows you to increase the indent between the sides and the actual values. Font colors, just to allow you for further customization. In this case, I'm actually going to transition them into white. That's because going forward, we're not going to touch any of the font styling elements, but we're going to work with the background. For the background, I'm going to put the same color, or actually, let's do something different. Let's add the green color, and let's increase the background opacity. So by customizing these settings, you can essentially create a unique looking variation of the chart that each of the series has a different label. And you can also explain this to the end user so they can easier read the chart. After the background opacities, we can also create a background line if it's necessary. Or what also you can do with this one is, let's say if we go to series 3, so we're going to close these settings right now since we don't need them. Series 3 value labels, yep, this one. Scroll down a bit more and the line right here. One way on how you can use it is actually to create more space between the column and the actual label. So for example, if I increase this to 10, you can see it brings it a little bit upwards. And one thing to remember here is that if you don't need that line by itself, you can easily just change the line opacity to 0 so that it becomes fully invisible. So there are a lot of these small little things that you need to know about the chart to get the most out of it. Now, going forward, you have your background shadows, like I said. You also have shadow placements. Once you enable it, you can choose whether the shadow is going to be dropped to the right or the left side of it. You can also increase the distance for these shadows. And last but not least are going to be settings for the value labels itself. So things like display units or value decimals. Display units allow you to create one particular shortening mechanism. So for example, in this case, you can see that all these labels almost are into millions except for these ones. So I'm going to change these both for the secondary series and the primary series. So we're going to go here, secondary, we changed it there. We're going to close it, and then we're going to go for secondary, scroll down a bit more, and also change the display unit into millions. So there are a lot of different things that you can do with the labels to customize them and make sure that they're still visible and they explain the chart better for the end user. All right, that's going to be it for the value label customization, and I'll see you in the next video.